It honestly wasn't as hard this second go around. I'm gonna bet it's not on me being better though. Alright, so if you somehow blindly clicked on this video, or YouTube for no good reason made you autoplay here to a channel with like 10 subscribers, we got here using Temur Scapeshift. At the end of one of my previous videos, I talked about it and gave it high praise, even going so far as to call it the Big Brother Scapeshift. But that's only because it's so good against the banned version. That's due to 4 Star of Extinctions and Memorial to Genius really fucking up their situation. That land, their Field of Ruins just get wiped out. And that's mostly how you win. Alright, we're going to do the deck tech at the end, which is weird, but it'll make sense. Really, I want to show you some of the highlights of what this deck does, how it kind of looks against it, and then Thursday I'm going to give like a good full showing of it. But I really want to get in depth of all the cards here, and really I just wanted to show or highlight the main differences of the cards. Like, there's really only 6 to 8 changes to the deck, but those changes really make a huge difference of how the game plays. Now, it was designed to beat up on Bant Scapeshift, but fucks up most other decks as the core is essentially the same. White is in the other version for 4 Teferis and 2 Prison Realms. We do 4 Star of Extinctions, 1 Mass Manipulation, and 1 Expansion Explosion. So we have more mana outlets while ramping all the same and having a full set of strong full board clears, allowing it to just play well against everything. The name of the game against little bro Bant Scapeshift is still the same. The first person to really get off a good Scapeshift usually wins. You'll have these huge board states where you just have to battle each other with large zombies and large blockers on either side, but in the end game, Star of Extinction is just so good. You still have to play right though, and human or computer error, hate MTG sometimes, will make you mess up. But as you can see in this game, I still have a Field of Ruin and a Memorial to War, so I'm going to kill his other Field of Ruins and pull ahead of the game, which I'm not actually sure I did because I definitely cut off the video out of frustration. At the day of this recording, I'm currently 339 on the Mythic rank. I'm sure that will go down more. But alright, here we are at the end of the video, and the truth of the matter is, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. I honestly don't know how I got here. And despite finally playing a tier 1 deck and putting in the bare minimum of time being the obvious reasons, I learned the 6 to 8 cards I put in there to make feel different didn't really make it feel like my deck. And I think the format that lets you truly champion a deck is best of 3, good old traditional rank. So let's build the sideboard. I'm going to kind of do it just off the cuff live, and we're going to start with we're gonna start with that. I think it's actually more difficult thinking about what could possibly come out, because like I'm even looking at just Growth Spiral and I could be like, yeah, that's the best card in the deck. So we're gonna start actually by finding what we want to put in, and then hopefully as we play on Thursday we'll learn how to work it. So really the question we're gonna start with is, what decks did we see a shit ton of, and what do we want more of? For starters, more murder. Pew pew spells to take care of vampires, mono red, stuff like that. We're gonna say vampires is the #1 deck right now, or #1 deck played. It's pretty much just mono white with more reach, so yeah, it's a problem. So they're incredibly annoying, and Sorin into Champion of Dusk is still wildly effective against us, especially if they go first. So I think the cards that make the most sense here are Shock and Lava Coil, and the obvious Flame Sweep. I'm pretty sure just Flame Sweeping the board up is gonna be our best early answer to just the mass of vampires they'll get, hopefully catching them before Legion's Landing. But if we don't go first, That's the reason for the shock. The main problem, honestly, is Adanto Vanguard, which, hot take, I hate just as much as Teferi, maybe even more. I said it. While Teferi was crazy annoying, especially in Control Shell, it fell out of favor as soon as the meta game called for something more proactive, and simply became a backup condition to win in Esper Hero / Esper Good cards. Adanto Vanguard pretty much said, fuck your control if you had mainly red-based removal, which I always found bullshit because it makes sense in the color identity to not really be able to deal with enchantments at all, but a fucking 1/1, right, should be able to handle a fucking 1/1 creature. I digress, but for us, that's the best thing to do. And I think what we're going to take out is Lava Coil, because the things that it's hitting, we don't really care about too much. Champion of Dusk, when it comes down, it's already a problem, and Lava Coil isn't taking care of any other threat other than a pumped up Ebon of the Night. So I think having an early shock, then a flame sweep, and then just getting out chump blockers to block it is more effective. So let's not fill our sideboard with just a massive removal, hoping that we hit that one situational spot. The slightly easier challenge for us is dealing with little brother Bant Scapeshift. The Star of Extinction, Field of Ruin, Memorial to War already put us in a good position to deal with it. So let's deal with how we lose, which is the Flashed in Scapeshift from Teferi. That's just hard to win against. It's a bit of a combo, but it's a 2-card combo that can come out. I think the shock that we already put in does help against killing a Teferi if they bounce first, but sometimes when they just have like 8 mana and they just play Teferi and they're holding up that Scapeshift, and you know that like 16 zombies gotta come on the board next turn, Star of Extinction is the only thing that helps again. To stop Scapeshift, usually I would just say, oh, let me toss in a few negates, but Teferi, being the piece of shit card that he is, negates don't really work. They might come in hand later though, so we'll think about it for other ones. So Star of Extinction targeting a land is what makes it a problem, because if they have like 8 lands, usually one of them is Field of Ruin, I target that, but then they just wipe out everything, get 2 Field of Ruins, and my Star of Extinction fizzles, which sucks. So what we're going to really focus on is locking down their lands even harder. I think that means that we toss in Chandra, which is good because it's just another win condition while being able to wipe the board after the fact and could kill a Teferi. Like, literally all of its abilities are amazing, including the sideboarded encounter that they could put in to stop our kind of things from happening. I think another good one is Mending of Dominaria. And almost forgot, Agent of Treachery. This just makes sense because we can just put it on the board, steal a Field of Ruin. They could still pop in that Scapeshift and we're going to still lose, but the game plan is to say, okay, they're not going to have that every time. What we need to do is beforehand take away their lands. Before they can hit that 8th land to ferry everything, we're going to hit our 7th or 6th land before them because we're running the exact same cards, and then we're going to just take their land before they can do anything. Now, Haphazard but Moderate is a spicy one. And I think this is really going to lock them down because they're going to want to keep on getting more lands. But if we keep on destroying stuff, then Scapeshift is just all the worst. Plus, maybe we could just target that big Hydroid Krasis that is causing a problem until Big Boy Star of Extinction comes down, wipes it out. Okay, so focusing on vampires and Bant Scapeshift, we've dealt with 97% of the meta. So let's just wrap it up. Okay, no, obviously that's not true, as what I honestly saw the most of in best of 1 matches was mono red. Just playing fast, of course, that's what they want to do. Hopefully that changes up in best of 3, but we'll see. Sometimes with mono red, they come out of the gates way too hot. So most of what we have for vampires, the shocks and flame strikes, will be really helpful because we can take out a few hate to say it, Star of Extinctions, Mass Manipulation, maybe even Expansion Explosion. The real difference is that burn, that savage, monstrous burn. And we deal with that by cheating. Yes, even in Magic, healing is cheating, and we'll do it with a goddamn smile on our face. So let's toss in, I want to say, anything that has healing. So let's take a quick look through. Like that, like that. Oh, yeah, well, right, we're in green, so we do have a way to deal with enchantments. I don't think it's going to be good enough. And honestly, I want to say we usually do hit a pretty high land count when we're playing against mono red. So the best one that I think we have is the Celebration. I mean, if we just choose gain life 4 times, usually we're just completely out of reach. And if they have a board state that can really mess with us, that means we weren't hitting the Field of the Dead, we weren't hitting the Star of Extinctions, we weren't hitting the tossed in shocks and flame sweeps anyway. So sometimes you just lose those games. But I think this card is going to be able to just win it for us automatically. Side note, Chandra seems pretty good against all the decks I just talked about. So there's a chance we're going to put in a second one. But I think having that one off is just, it's beautiful. Like, it just plays so perfectly in hurting most people's game plans. I want to say that one that it might not be great in is the bane of my existence. The reason I left Best of 3 alone, the piece of shit Nexus of Fate. I swear I may involuntarily cut my videos short if I see that shit. I hate it so much. For that, I think it's time to toss in these negates. It's still probably going to work us, but I don't see another option. I say we toss in the negates. Actually, Chandra might actually be good in this because, every turn they do something, they'll still be taking 1. It doesn't sound great, but I don't know. Maybe we'll put enough pressure on to make it so we still win. All right, and now let's focus on these other decks. Nexus of Fate, honestly, I would consider an other deck. But there's also Simic Flash, which will be tough, but it's something that we already worked through. Like on the best of 1 ladder, they're just going to start countering stuff. They have to counter Scapeshift, and we just got to keep on playing things to make sure that they can't get through. And also the reason why we have 3 Arboreal Grazers rather than what most are playing, which is 2 now. I love it. It's just a good blocker. It really helps against the Merfolk's Trickster, anything flying in the air for the more blue-based Curious Obsessions versions, and it's just nice. It's just a nice little blocker to hold things off until we get off that Star of Extinction. Then there's John the Dinosaurs, or just Gruul or Green Stompy. We definitely can use, and I hate to say it, a fog effect. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Boros Feather is another thing, which I think the Vampire sideboard should be okay with, really. Actually, even going back to the green ones, Flame Sweep should be able to deal with Llanowar Elves. Shocks doing their work against the early mana base will be really good too, and even Chandra to wipe everything as long as we're not playing against the elemental version of those kind of green ramp spells, because I've never had a problem against those decks, and I've never had a problem against the Feather decks because Star of Extinction is so good. The problem is Feather and God's Willing does mess us up, but as I said, I think that's going to be our toughest matchup post sideboard, because they can just bring in a bunch of indestructible stuff, and we're going to just have to put in a couple of our key sweepers, and we just got to see who wins the race. Do we ramp up fast enough to get a bunch of zombies out, or do they go over the top with Feather, or straight through with a black protected God's Willing? So I think those would be fun matches, but I'm not sure what we can do against that, except for maybe River's Rebuke. It definitely dodges all the problems I just brought up, but that is that would be a spicy one to bring in. You know what? Let's toss it in there for now. All right, and then some of the other ones are the more planeswalker based ones, leading, I guess, perfectly into saying like Grow, and when they're more like planeswalker based with the Nissa. I feel like every single green stompy, Grow, elemental, what have you deck plays Nissa still, and Star of Extinction takes care of that. Star of Extinction also is very good against Jeskai Super Friends and Esper Heroes because it just takes away all the problems, just washes it away. So, and honestly, the flavor for killing stuff is just beautiful against young dinosaurs. But with Jeskai Super Friends and Esper Heroes, I guess a late game audible we can toss in is Cindervines. Everything they have is spells, and we can just burn them out. Star of Extinction should take care of planeswalkers and hit their interplanar beacons, or search for Iskantas, or the, I guess, less seen treasure map. So Cindervine should help against those control decks, and it should help against maybe even Nexus, and it gives us a way to deal with enchantments. So I think this is a clutch card that we probably are going to put more than one into and see how it plays against those decks. Does our deck really need that, or is the ramp enough? Is our game plan of getting out a bunch of zombies really quickly enough? Usually is, but in best of 3, we don't want them to be able to stop us, and then we don't have another game plan to really be effective. And here we are with a ton of cards. Gotta make some cuts, even though I want to put a few more things in. So there's a lot to consider. Can't completely deal with it all, but the real challenge will be, beyond reading what other people are going to play in the meta game, is what the fuck I'm going to sideboard out each game. Well, that's a problem for another day. Forgot about Ral and Banefire, both getting put in there. So I think we can cut Alright, this is kind of what I settled on. I hope it's good. Either way, we're going to run with it. We're going to go charge into battle. As you can see, I was not playing this at all. Let's see how we do. Wish me luck.